At the beginning of the film, two primitive men travel deep into the forest until they come across a magical tree with several glowing fruits. One of them becomes curious and bites into a fruit. Surprisingly, this triggers a chain reaction of events, beginning with a giant snake landing on their feet. They are then transported to another civilization where humans have advanced significantly. The man who ate the fruit earlier ends up seducing the lovely queen of this kingdom. Following this, the film flashes back to the beginning. We are transported to biblical times of early civilizations, when humanity is still in its infancy. A group of hunters has ventured deep into the forest in search of food. They are pursuing a boar, and as the lead hunter, Marlak, prepares to attack, one of his comrades is impaled by a spear. Suddenly, another hunter, Zed, appears and boasts about his aim, believing he has killed the boar. Zed apologizes but faintly whispers that the hunter had blocked his shot after realizing he hadn't. When Marlak hears his snide remarks, the hunters seize and bully Zed. They then return to their village, where we see O, a strawberry picker. As Marlak walks by, he mocks O by tossing away his fruit basket. O and Zed have been best friends since they were born, it turns out. As they talk, Zed notices his crush, Maya, and begins to flirt with her. She politely declines him, stating that she prefers a man who will protect and provide for her. To make matters worse, Marlak presents Maya with a boar's head as a token of love and initiates romantic relations with her. Meanwhile, O is attracted to Zed's sister, Ima, but is too shy to approach her. Just then, one of the villagers takes a piss behind Zed's sleeping quarters, infuriating him. So he and O go for a walk in the woods, where Zed goes on a rant about how he is constantly looked down on and treated like garbage. They eventually arrive at a tree with glowing fruits. It turns out that eating this fruit is forbidden, and no one has dared to approach it. Zed, on the other hand, insists on eating it while pondering why it is actually forbidden. O tries everything he can to stop him, but Zed, who believes he will become intelligent and thus have a chance with Maya, bites it anyway. Zed immediately claims superior knowledge, but he is unable to answer even the most basic scientific questions. At the same time, a massive snake wraps itself around O's feet, causing him to panic. He frantically asks what they should do, but Zed's answers are ineffective, so he eats more forbidden fruit. The villagers will hold a dance festival later that night. O attempts to impress Ima by performing the awkward fertility dance with her. She also gets up and dances with O, but for some reason, he hits her in the head with a stick because he thinks she'll like it. Unfortunately, she angrily strikes him back before storming away. Meanwhile, it turns out that someone from the village saw Zed eating the forbidden fruit, so he informs him. An enraged Marlak confronts him about this, and Zed is expelled from the village as a result. However, Zed's situation worsens when he accidentally burns down the village with the fire stick in his hand, prompting the hunters to pursue him. He flees for his life, and Marlak soon finds him hiding beneath the bushes. O comes to Zed's aid and knocks Marlak out. Following this, the two flee as the entire village devolves into chaos. O believes the world is flat and that once they reach the mountains, they will fall off, but Zed disagrees. The next day, they discover land beyond the mountains, proving O's beliefs incorrect. He then assumes Zed was aware of this prior to eating the forbidden fruit. After a short distance, they come across a herd of cows grazing in a field, and Zed decides to slaughter one of them for food. He lunges at the cow but is quickly kicked away. Soon after, two brothers, Cain and Abel, appear and reveal that they are farmers and that the cows belong to them. They have a disagreement while explaining their work, which leads to a brutal fight. Cain eventually murders Abel with a stone. He invites O and Zed to his house for supper because they witnessed his crime. They reluctantly agree to go because they are afraid Cain will murder them as well if they do not comply. Zed and O have dinner with Cain's family the same evening. When Adam, the eldest member, inquires about Abel's whereabouts, the trio lies and claims that they haven't seen him all day. Later, Adam orders Zed to sleep with a beautiful girl, while O is forced to sleep with a filthy guy. Zed is overjoyed, thinking that he will finally get laid, but the girl is only interested in other girls. Meanwhile, O is having trouble sleeping because the filthy guy farts and makes a nuisance of himself. The next morning, Adam and some farmers set out to search for his missing son in the fields. They eventually find Abel's body and conclude that Cain is the murderer. The trio, however, has already fled the village by this point. They are currently at a market when they come across Marlak, Maya, and Ima, who are all tied up. Zed and O approach the girls slowly and learn that after they burned down the village, other attackers invaded and kidnapped all of the villagers to sell as slaves. Zed, determined to free them, attempts to purchase the girls but is unable to do so due to a lack of funds. Cain then steps in and claims that he can assist in their release. However, he ultimately betrays his friends by selling them as slaves in exchange for a horse. Zed, O, Maya, Ima, and the other slaves are later locked in a cage, ready to be delivered to someone. However, along the way, a third-party tribe appears on horses and ambushes the slave masters. During the attack, Zed and O manage to escape while Maya and Ima are apprehended. The two try to save the girls and spy on the attackers from a distance, but they soon fall asleep. To their surprise, when they wake up, the attackers have vanished. Following that, Zed and O travel to the city of Sodom, which they had overheard the attackers discussing earlier. The film then cuts to Abraham, who is about to sacrifice his son, Isaac, due to orders from God. He is abruptly interrupted by Zed and O, who happen to be passing by. They claim that God has sent them to prevent Abraham from killing the boy. When Abraham hears this, he drops his knife and thanks God before escorting them to his village, believing they are the holy messengers. To demonstrate their loyalty, Abraham states that both of them must circumcise their genital parts. Fearful, the two flee the village and travel to the infamous city of Sodom. They soon discover, however, that Abraham's son Isaac has been following them. He follows the two into the city, claiming that he and his friends always sneak into Sodom for fun. They quickly make it to the gates when several guards attempt to apprehend them. As a result, Isaac flees while the two are apprehended and prepared for punishment. But, fortunately, Cain, who works as a guard there, stands up for them and saves their lives. The trio then walks through the city while Cain explains the benefits of being a guard inside the palace. So, despite their lack of skills, Zed and O are enlisted as guards the next day. Following that, the three of them explore the market until the city's princess, Inanna, passes by in her carriage. Zed is immediately drawn to her, but Cain warns him that he has no chance with the princess because she is royalty. They then proceed to the palace, where they learn that a virgin woman is about to be sacrificed. This is because the people believe that if they make a sacrifice, God will shower them with rain, food, and shelter. After throwing the woman into a fire pit, one of the slaves approaches the three and reveals that Princess Inanna has summoned Zed and O. While the slave escorts Zed inside the palace, O is taken somewhere else by an old man. He then finds himself in a private gathering, where it is revealed that the slave who led him inside is Maya. After a while, Zed notices O, who is covered in gold paint and posing as a statue. The two then notice Ima in the crowd, who turns out to be a slave as well. She is currently being harassed by one of the guards, so Zed pretends to scold her and sends her away. Following that, he goes to see the princess, while the high priest shows O the holy room, and explains that no one has ever returned alive from it. However, it is said that only the special ones will be spared, because God favors the righteous. Meanwhile, Zed claims to be the chosen one, so the princess transports him to the holy room. She persuades him to go inside and pray to God to end all of the people's suffering. Nothing happens when Zed enters the room, and instead he finds O hiding from the high priest, who is forcing him to do inappropriate things. Zed then kneels in front of the large stone in the center of the room and prays to God. However, following his prayers, he has an argument with O about the existence of God. They eventually reconcile, and as they leave the room together, they are met by the high priest and numerous guards, who arrest them for violating the rules by entering the room. The next day, the two are led outside and sentenced to be stoned to death in front of the public. But, before the procedure can begin, Zed confronts the king, claiming that he is the chosen one because he is unharmed after entering the holy room. As a result, the entire crowd begins to chant for Zed. Because the king believes in the theory, he overturns their death sentence. Instead of releasing them, he chooses to keep them as slaves. Another virgin woman will be sacrificed to God later in the afternoon. Surprisingly, the king chooses his own daughter, Princess Inanna, because he is tired of her constant whining. It turns out that Ima and Maya are also on the list to be sacrificed, and when Zed learns of this, he makes a dramatic entrance and destroys a construction site. At the same time, Abraham, Isaac, and their troops appear, resulting in a full-fledged riot. While some of the guards betray the king, killing him and taking his throne, the public begins to retaliate. Meanwhile, O saves Ima and finally confesses his feelings for her, which leads to the two having sexual relations in the midst of the chaos. Zed fights his way through many guards to save Maya from the high priest, who falls into the pit of fire. After a while, The fighting stops, and the crowd cheers for Zed, believing him to be the chosen one. It also begins to rain, which adds to their excitement. However, he finally admits to everyone that he is just a normal man trying to help his friends. He goes on to say that anyone can be chosen and shape their own destiny if they persevere through the difficult times. The crowd goes into a frenzy after hearing his motivational speech. In the final scene, Princess Inanna is crowned Queen of Sodom, while Zed and O prepare to part ways. O plans to return to his village to help rebuild and develop it, whereas Zed wishes to travel the world with Maya. The film concludes with the two saying an emotional but awkward goodbye before leaving Sodom.